It's unbelievable to start with. Why am I believing it? Am I believing it?
Can't believe these things.
Unbelievable.
Believe it because it's, in a history of it travelling through time, through thousands of years.
Hello. Welcome back to me talking on my floor. Back in 2017, I went through a bit of a documentary phase. Cause what can I say? I like knowledge. I like learning random things. Sue me. While scrolling through the documentary section on Netflix, I came across what ended up being the most incredible documentary I had ever seen. It impacted my brain in such a way that it just felt so significant to me. I was so surprised and fascinated by how incredible, nay, unbelievable this documentary was. I got my whole family involved. They also watched it with me and were also just amazed. Well, years later, my sister told me something about this documentary that shook my brain. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm gonna shake your brain too. So I'm gonna take you through this process with me, and then we're going to uncover the secret dark side behind this documentary. Treasures from the wreck of the unbelievable. The whole story of this documentary started in 2008 when some fishermen off the coast of East Africa pulled out of the water a golden statue of a fetal monkey. The story then goes that a professor from a prestigious university took interest in a viral video about this golden monkey discovery. He travels to East Africa, meets up with the fishermen, and asks them where they found it. They take him to the general area they were at, and they try and look for more treasure. Well, after about 5 days of searching, diving every day with no luck, the fifth dive, they found something. An old, almost mannequin-like statue of a woman they discovered lying at the bottom of the ocean that appeared to have been sitting there for hundreds of years, if not longer. Well, now this man knows he's got something huge on his hands. This professor and a few others decide to get a big team together to go and excavate this part of the ocean to find more treasure. The team reaches out to an artist who has made waves, been really controversial in the art community.
Last year, he caused controversy in the modern art world by creating a diamond-encrusted skull.
And ask him if he would want to help fund this project as they search for treasure.
Brash and brazen artist Damien Hirst.
And Damien is all over this. He just made a ton of money from selling his artwork.
£9 million. That's £9 million.
Now that's a pretty penny for a pretty pickle.
And so he's ready to invest in something big.
After that auction, it seemed like something had ended and something new was beginning. I love fantasy shipwreck stories when I was a kid. I just love them.
They get together an elite group of professors and historians, scuba divers, and they start hunting for treasure. They do some kind of sonar radar scan. They find through the scan there's a specific area where this treasure is sort of spread out in the ocean, and it's believed to have been on a shipwreck. However, there's no evidence of a ship, as likely it's decayed away at this point. The first thing they start doing is vacuuming up some sand, moving things around, but then they discover the first clue as to how all this happened. They find a Roman coin, pristinely preserved and dated from the time AD 54 to 68. So that's a couple thousand years old. Now we have a time frame for when this boat crashed. During this time in history, there was supposedly a massive trade system.
During this period, there was a Roman market in plunder of earlier classical cities,
where ships would cargo valuable treasures. So there's a huge trade market for stuff like this. The next big discovery is personal effects from the ship's crew. They start finding dishes and little items that would have belonged to the people on the ship. And then we find the third big clue, a massive bolt indicating the sheer size of this ship. They bring it to an expert who immediately recognized this kind of bolt, saying he's seen it before on a ship that was massive, but that bolt was still smaller than this one. So this is a huge shipwreck. They take the size of this bolt to the University of Southampton, where they're able to make a sort of diagram to estimate the sheer size of this boat. Let me tell you, it was massive. A massive boat. The next step for our historians is to try and discover where this boat came from. What's the story behind it? Are there any records anywhere indicating what this boat was? Unfortunately, shipping records out of East Africa during that time are essentially non-existent, so that's not going to be any help. Then they look into oral stories or eyewitness accounts to see if anyone saw a massive ship and recorded it. No luck. So now it's time to start looking into legend. They discover an old ancient legend, a story of a slave who was freed. After he was freed, he went in the pursuit of collecting beautiful things. This slave was named Amotan, and legend goes he collected so much treasure and wanted to ship it to an ancient temple. He had a ship built called the Epistos, the biggest of its kind, the largest of the day, loaded it with all of his treasures and sailed away to the temple. However, on the way there was a massive storm,
or attacked by a giant sea monster, depending on what version of the story you read.
And the ship disappeared forever with all of its treasure. And as time went on, Amotan became a legend, the treasure never to be found again. Now, there were some enthusiasts who had made an attempt to search for this treasure in the past. And they even show in the documentary some old footage of a captain who made it his life's journey to find the treasure of Amotan, but had no luck in his search.
He will leave no stone unturned until he has found the lost treasure.
We return to our excavation crew as they discover something incredible. An elephant skull or a mammoth skull made of marble. The story goes that in ancient Greek, elephant skulls were taken to be proof of the mythological creature Cyclops. If you had a mammoth skull or an elephant skull, you had something that was a treasure of the mythos. The next great treasure they uncover is a statue of Pazuzu, a creature who is half beast, half man, a demon of ancient Babylon. They then recount a story of some archaeologists who discovered an ancient Babylonian city. Buried in the ground, they found a head of Pazuzu, the demon. But the body of the statue was never found, only the head. This is an incredible discovery. They have found something that was thought to be lost to history. What a monumental, incredible find. Like, this is amazing. At this point in the excavation, they start realizing that the things they're finding are extremely rare and valuable. So the thought is here, this can't be a trade ship, because there's not duplicates of the same item. These are extremely valuable treasures. This was more likely the ship of a collector. The consistency of finding such rare and valuable objects adds more validity to the theory that this is in fact the lost treasure of Amotan. And the excavators are starting to get very excited. They start showing us glimpses of a beautiful building in Venice that they're going to set up as a museum. And not only is it a beautiful museum, it's being set up in Venice, of all places. So this is the real deal. If you thought discovering the long-lost statue of Pazuzu was an incredible find, like I did, you will be shocked when you find out there's more. As they continue to search and excavate the area, they start to find gold. And not just a little bit of gold. Millions and millions of dollars worth of golden statues, nearly perfectly preserved under the ocean. This gold has been sitting under the water for 2,000 years. And there's so much of it. This starts to scare the crew a little bit because they're worried that if word gets out about the gold, people are going to start coming to steal it.
We've got a little bit of a problem. A lot of gold. That's great news. Okay. This budget would undermine our security here.
So they have to be really careful about their next move. There's a lot of contemplation about this. When to pull the gold out, how to pull the gold out, what should we study, how do we keep this out of the eyes of the locals. The documentary crew even goes and interviews locals in East Africa, asking them if they've heard anything about the excavation, just to see if rumors of the gold are spreading. After the discovery of this gold and some incredible items, they find a massive golden disc that was said to have been an idol of the sun god. And this is proof that some ancient people did in fact worship the sun. After we see all of this gold, they show us more of the museum and more of the beautiful things that were discovered under the ocean. They show us slow, sweeping shots of the artwork with beautiful music underneath, and it's just so captivating and interesting to watch. The cinematography is so impressive. While there was a little bit of stakes and drama in regard to the gold and figuring out how to get it out of the ocean and keep it a secret, there arises yet another conflict after this. Our main professor in this story, the one who discovered the legend of Amotan, has this hunch, this gut feeling they need to look a little deeper.
Shouldn't we make sure that we've checked everywhere?
Somewhat near the shipwreck, there's a drop-off into deeper ocean. The initial scans they did showed nothing down there, so they didn't bother looking there for the treasure. But this professor has such a strong hunch and gut feeling they need to look down there. While the leader of the excavation says, no, we're done. We've found so much and the scans showed nothing down there. We're not going to go down there. They compromise by sending a camera into the depths to see if they can just discover anything at all. And if they do find something worth excavating, they decided they'd come back the following year to go get it. Well, they send a camera down into the depths. And after a dramatic sequence of events...
It was something, wasn't it? That is
You saw something? Can't see it.
Shit. Yes. We've got something.
They do see something incredible. Down in the depths of this trench are massive statues depicting stories of ancient legend, covered in sea life, covered in coral and barnacles. And there isn't just one statue. There are several massive statues. A single scuba diver compared to one of these beings in the statue is a shocking comparison. And I thought the gold was the most incredible find. They return the next year and pull all of these statues out of the water, and now they are confident they have everything, all of the treasure that was lost. They display all of it in a museum, still covered in the remnants of the ocean, leaving it in that state, while also making some copies of the statues of what these statues would have looked like before they were lost to the ocean. To say that this documentary inspired me and filled me with so much hope for the world, how lucky we were to have discovered something so cool, and that the people who discovered it wanted to display it in a museum rather than keep it all and be greedy for themselves. The hope for humanity, the inspiration from working hard and discovering things that were thought to be complete myth. It's an understatement to say I wanted to go to that museum. Well, now that you're all caught up on the story of this documentary, let me tell you what my sister told me a few years later, after we had all ogled and been in awe at this incredible documentary. It's fake. It's entirely fake. It's a mockumentary. It's not, like, literally none of it was real. The professors, the locals, all these, it was people hired. It was actors. The story of Amotan, made up. That's not real. They did such a good job! They did such a good job making it believable. The actors were so good. The interviews were so believable. Even after knowing it was fake, going back and watching it, it was just like, how? These are extremely talented people. It's like so upsetting to learn that I was tricked. And I was tricked so hard by this documentary. It was so disappointing learning that it was all a publicity stunt. Within the movie, within the mockumentary, they don't ever clearly indicate that it is a deception, that it is a work of fiction or a mockumentary. That's not indicated anywhere except in the very end. In the last 2 shots of the movie, they show a Mickey Mouse and Walt Disney statue that was covered in coral like all the rest of the artwork. They even show the Mickey Mouse underneath the water. And that's it. That's the only indication they give that this is actually not real. Now, I remember when I saw the Walt Disney Mickey Mouse thing, I was like, oh, well, maybe they just made that because Disney sponsored them or something. So it was like a nod to Disney helping them with this project or whatever. I didn't think much of it. But no, turns out all of it, none of the treasures were real. It's all artwork made by this guy. Why did they do this? Why? Well, let's get into it. What is the purpose? Why did they make this? What in the world? In reality, the entire project was orchestrated by the artist Damien Hirst. He'd planned this for about 10 years. He'd been working on this artwork, planning this story, prepping for all of this to be his major comeback into the art world. He booked out a few buildings in Venice to set up this exhibition with the premise of believe it because you want to believe it. I guess.
What makes you believe in things is not what's there, it's about what's not there. It's unbelievable to start with, but that makes you believe it.
And at first glance, it seems like a pretty cool idea, like something really smart to do. Like, hey, I'm an artist and I'm promoting my artwork by creating a documentary that's really well done to show like my prowess as an artist. But as I dug deeper into this, I realized it is not nearly as fantastical and whimsical as it seems. Truthfully, in the end, everything ended up feeling a little more vapid and self-serving than I would have hoped. This art exhibit actually was open to the public for a number of months in 2017. According to this article I found, the exhibition was unbelievably repetitive, with variations of the same sculptures in bronze, gold, silver, and crystal. The combined space of both museums is 54,000 square feet, with the primary intention to create a massive hype around this artist so he would be able to sell this artwork to the extremely wealthy. And as far as I know, I'm pretty sure that's what happened, so I guess it worked. There's a few more details I discovered that were extremely disturbing to me and made me feel a lot less whimsical and positive about this whole thing. I mean, aside from the deception that I fell for, all the way to the bottom of the ocean. You remember those massive statues they pulled from the pit? The deepest depths of that part of the ocean. Apparently they're all made out of bronze, and the coral is just painted to look like coral, even though it's brass or bronze or whatever. This person who went through the museum said that it was painted really poorly, and if you got up too close, you could tell that it was completely fake. In addition, the person in this article pointed out that there was an excessive amount of nudity in these statues. Almost every single one of them contained naked women who were overly sexualized in their depiction. There's even a statue not depicted in the documentary of a minotaur full-on essaying R-wording a woman with very large breasts. And I saw a picture of it, and it's disturbing. Not cool. It's crazy to think that he probably should have had a trigger warning for his exhibit. Yeah. Essentially, like more than anything, it turned out to be a corn but spelled with a P museum. Most of it, from the sounds of it, was just disturbing nudity and corn type material, which just kind of makes my stomach churn a little bit. Like, I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with that, just that the way that it was advertised to be this miraculous historical find, to have it all be really modern looking busty woman portrayed in statue form, I don't like that. I don't like that. This dude's just got some fantasies, I think. Some intense bikini waxed busty fantasies. I'll put a link to that article. It's a good read. It's an interesting take on Damien Hirst's art exhibition in 2017. Also, if you want to watch the documentary, it's no longer on Netflix, but it is on YouTube. Under Damien Hirst's own YouTube channel, you can just watch the full thing for free. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Even though it's all a complete sham, the documentary is still so good. It's just really well done. It's beautiful. The score is beautiful. The actors are fantastic. The cinematography is amazing, but it's not real. So just, keep that in mind. In conclusion, cool idea, Damien. Very interesting execution. I hope you made a lot of money off of this, I guess. Not a fan of the corn statues. Not for me. Maybe there are for some other rich billionaires that bought them. There's a little bit of history for you all. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. If you liked this video, tell me you liked it by liking the video. That's what that means. Also, subscribe, because it is a well-known universal fact that people who subscribe to my channel magically become hot and sexy. So you should do that. It'll improve your life immensely, I'm sure. Bye!